I'm Lisa Evers, and this is Street Soldiers.
Fox 5 and Hot 97 present Street Soldiers with Lisa Evers.
We're seeing more and more kids getting involved in entertainment at younger and younger ages. But where do we draw the line between what's helping them and what's hurting them?
The world could be safe from hunger. It's sad. Down to the children have to suffer.
Singing, rapping, and dancing sensation Jayla Marie is on her way to ruling the music world at age 12. Hip-hop superstar Remy Ma can relate.
I started writing my first rhymes when I was 11, 12, like that. But, you know, do I wish that I would have finished high school when I was supposed to and went to college at the time when I was supposed to? Absolutely.
Dr. Elisa English says the track record of child stars as adults is disturbing.
Children should develop normally. They should have less exposure to TV, less exposure to video games, less exposure to stadiums of 20,000 people and you're on the stage.
This is not a career that's guaranteed. You know, I would hate to see false hope go into something, you know, and their hearts get broken because not too many people make it to be successful entertainers.
Heavy metal has its own 12-year-old star in Ty Trujillo, son of Metallica bass player Robert Trujillo. He's filling in for Korn's bass player on tour.
Children want to please their parents. Children love their parents.
It worked out for Zay Hilfiger and Zayan McCall. The success of the teen duo's Juju on That Beat landed them a record deal. For females, the drive for perfection is even bigger than the drive for being famous, says Kelly Osbourne. She's seen it all growing up as the daughter of famous parents, music icon Ozzy Osbourne and his wife Sharon, now a TV host. We caught up with her as she was promoting her new book.
People need to realize that being perfect is gross and does not exist. And you will be chasing that for the rest of your life because there will always be someone prettier than you, smarter, funnier, right behind you. So who cares? Just be the best you that you can be.
Some say the real issue is whether it's the parent's dream or the child's. Let's find out what our panel has to say. Joining us, Soumya Krishnamurthy. She's a music journalist and pop culture expert. Great to have you.
Hello.
Also with us is Consequence. He's a rapper, producer, and songwriter. He's about to go on tour with his 5-year-old son, Caden, on a festival run with Tribe Called Quest. Cons, great to have you in studio again.
Thanks for having me again.
Thank you for being with us. Also with us is Dr. Elisa English. She's a clinical therapist. Great to have you back again with us. Thank you so much. Soumya, let me start with you on this. Is this really a growing trend, or are we just seeing more of it?
I think we're just seeing more of it. I think since the invention of song and dance, there have been parents who've wanted to push their kids in that direction. With social media, nowadays, there's just more transparency. So from the womb to when they're grown up, you see little kids everywhere on Twitter, on Instagram. I know so many people who even before their kid is born, they make sure to take that Instagram placeholder for the name of their unborn kid because you never know. They could be the next model, actor, rapper, movie star. So parents are really thinking ahead. But I think that really goes hand in hand with our social media culture. Everyone's on social media, so it's no wonder that so are their kids.
And it's the next step is just with the video and showing it and being out there like that. Cons, you told me, and this was actually, you're actually the inspiration for this show, so I'm so happy you're here with us. When we were having the conversation at XXL, you said, you know what, Lisa, this is a way for me to spend time with my son, because I'm in a business where we're working 7 days a week a lot of times, in the studio late at night on promo tours. Yeah. What made you want to get into this with Caden to this extent, where you're going on tour with him with Tribe?
Well, honestly, it was what he wanted to do initially. It started with him just wanting to spend time with me because, like you said, you know, with the schedule that I have, I'm home, but I'm not home. I'm in and out. I'm out of town, you know. So when I'm in town, you know, that's my son is my buddy. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's my best friend. So when he asked, I couldn't really tell him no. He's an only child, and it's just like, yeah, I didn't really get to go to work with my dad when I was young. So it was something that I wanted to facilitate for him. You know what I'm saying? Like, you want the next generation to be better than the former. You know what I mean? So it was really a no-brainer for him to start tagging along with me, and like he's he has his own charisma, he has his own thoughts, and like people really like him.
But is this the type of thing of where, he's on the weekends, he's with you and in the studio or doing something like that, or is this like an everyday thing?
It's pretty much like it's a lifestyle because I mean, and obviously being a responsible parent, and his mother is obviously a responsible parent, school comes first. So like for instance, he wanted to come today, but he's in school today, so we couldn't, I couldn't facilitate that.
Caden, you can come anytime. You're welcome after school.
But he has to, his mom is really, really good with making sure that everything stays intact from an education
and that there stays some balance. Dr. Elisa, we've seen a lot of cases though, I mean, going back and not just in hip hop and in the music industry, but also the acting profession, from the Jackson 5, we've seen what happened to the family, some of the family members there, Lindsay Lohan, some of these child stars have had a lot of problems later on.
Yeah, I mean, I totally respect the fact that Consequence is looking for alternative ways to spend time with children, and we know that family bond is extremely important. However, it's also important that we understand this mental and emotional development of young people, and the fact that they have environmental immunity and genetic immunity to emotional stability. And so if you create a false sense of reality for them, you don't necessarily build up the immunity that they need to fight off what they will need to fight off when they become adults.
What do you mean by that?
I mean, they will
I'm a little confused.
So they will go through challenges and problems and breakups and makeups and loss of jobs and friends and family, things where they really need to cope with life. And when you overexpose them to what I consider like a false sense of reality, you're exposed to all these things in the entertainment industry, you're doing all these things, and then all of a sudden things fall flat at 10 or 11. I mean, we find
like your
that
has
children
been by the time you're in your preteen years.
Right.
What about that? 'Cause everybody, please jump in.
Well, I think that's a case in point scenario because if you're taking your kid to casting calls and you're taking your kid to that's circumstantial and there's nothing wrong with that, you know what I'm saying?
But that's a whole different thing because
that's
for
what I'm
people
saying.
that have never been to one, there's
like if you
100 children.
if you're using your kid to sift for gold, essentially, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Then that's a burden.
Right.
I mean, my situation is a little different because my son is essentially like it's just the same thing as if I was a firefighter and I stayed in a firehouse and I brought my son 1 or 2 days out the week to see what being a firefighter is all about in a safe parameter. I don't see anything wrong with that.
Right,
Is there a difference?
I think there's an interesting difference there because, when it comes to kid actors or performers, a lot of times some of these horror stories you hear is when the kid really was the bread earner in the family. Exactly. And you oftentimes hear of someone like a Justin Bieber, or even in many cases the Jackson 5, where they really went from nothing to something. And I think at a very young age, the kids knew our family's financial future is on my back. If I don't ace this casting call, if I don't really go in that audition and get that role, we may not eat. And oftentimes you see where the parents give up their jobs, they have no salary. I think in the case of Consequence, I don't want to speak for you, but it's kind of different with celebrities because in many ways this is an extension of what they're already doing, right? So for me, my dad is a scientist, so I went to the lab all the time.
Which
as
prepared
a
you for pop culture and hip hop.
Totally prepared me to be in a laboratory, right.
Well, prepared her for the reality that you have to make a career choice.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
And again, so for me, I grew up in academia because my family are professors, they're scientists, so that's the environment that I know. The same way for Kansa's kid, being in the studio, being on stage, that's just the lifestyle that they know, and I think that's very different. And, knowing Kans for so many years, I would say if that your son said, you know what, Dad, I don't want to do this. I want to be an archaeologist, or I just want to be a kid and go play basketball. You'd say, okay, because your family's financial future is not dependent on your son.
My son's whatever his desires in life don't hinge on him being able to complete a record at this point. Like we do songs. He has a bunch of records that we're doing. But
It's not like you're going to have to finish this record or I won't let you play video
we're getting
games.
evicted.
Right.
No, we're not getting
We're
evicted.
going to be eating
All right,
ramen
we're
for the
gonna-
next month.
Okay,
Yeah.
hold that thought because we're going to take a short break. This is Street Soldiers. I'm your host, Lisa Evers. We're talking about kids and entertainment. We'll be back right after this.
Those ills of society have gone
Right.
on before social media. Those
Absolutely.
ills of society have gone on well before any of us in this room were on the
Therefore,
planet.
we should be in a better place.
In theory.
In
But
theory.
Life is not, you don't live life in theory. You live life in reality and in gravity.
Is there a difference if the parent is already famous, Dr. Elisa? For example, you have Consequences already famous. Is that different because now he's not living through his son?
No. The development of children is what it is, whether you have money or not. 0 to 5 is a very important developmental stage for a child. Overexposure to too much, too soon, too fast isn't necessarily the most healthy way to have a child build up a certain resistance to the pain and the negativity that they're going to have to face in life every day. And you see it every day with children, even those who aren't necessarily have a father like Consequence. I mean, I see people living through social media and trying to act out all sorts of things through social media. They're not even focused on school because there's so much that they're exposed to via the internet that they no longer have an interest in school. They have no real good coping skills. And I'm not talking about someone 5 or 6. I'm talking about 15 and 16-year-olds.
By the
They
time you
haven't
get to that
developed
point.
the good
50-year-old.
coping skills. Absolutely.
Cons, what about the balance? Like, how do you deal with the values with him?
I think you just have to be a good parent. You know what I mean? I think I don't know necessarily how you come to the determination of what's overexposure for a 5-year-old when it's, I don't know that. I'm not a psychologist. Because I'm just thinking like, man, what is Assad gonna do? He's gonna be rich and.
And you're talking about, well, let's talk about it. Assad is DJ Khaled's 8-month-old son who's already been on the cover of Double XL magazine.
Yeah,
He's got his Instagram account has almost 600,000 followers.
Here's the thing.
I get that.
Here's the thing.
But there is overexposure. To have an Instagram account for a child, to have all of this social media exposure, the brain develops at a certain pace in a certain way. To have your child engage in things that for too soon, too fast, isn't necessarily the best way for a child to develop healthy coping skills.
With myself and with Khaled and with Fab, we have the ability to pull back at any given moment because it's not a situation where we are dependent on our children to feed the family.
So, for example, if he says
I said, he's not even here today
because he's in school.
If my son was my lick, right? If my son was the lick, he would be here. We're not gonna miss a moment. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Are we doing this for Fox? We doing this for Hot 97? That's the lick in the game.
You're mixing apples and oranges, Consequence. This is not about you being a good dad or Khaled or or Fabulous or whoever else. This is about the fact whether or not children should be exposed at an early age to all sorts of things that then in the end, when they become adults and maybe you're no longer around and they need to develop healthy coping skills so they can survive in the world day to day, they're not prepared because they've been exposed to arenas of 3 million people.
I understand your diagnosis, but I think I'm
not diagnosing. I'm having a conversation.
Okay, so I understand your take on the conversation, but I feel like it has a little bit of tunnel vision because you're not.
With the way the world is now.
Absolutely.
And that's the problem. That's why 70% of children drop out of school. Celebrity children are addicted to drugs. 80% of people have tried some kind of illicit drugs. We need to be clear about what's going on in society. It's not just celebrity children.
Dr. Elisa, isn't it better?
Those ills of society have gone on before social media.
Absolutely.
Those ills of society have gone on well before any of us in this room were on the planet.
Therefore, we should be in a better place.
Okay, but
in theory.
In theory.
Life is not, you don't live life in theory. You live life in reality and in gravity. So the thing is, when you're dealing with reality and gravity, you deal with, most people from a human being standpoint do what's easiest.
Right.
I think, whether you agree with it or not, that's my take on life.
I think
most
we
people
all live life in reality, however whatever that reality is for you. So for us to say the Jackson 5 and the family did not provide a certain platform for them to be healthy adults, so
I never
therefore,
said that.
no,
Let
I'm
me
just
come
saying,
back to
Lindsay Lohan and whoever else. I mean, we can't say that their families did not create a space for them to have good adaptive skills, but they then succumbed to drugs and alcohol.
Okay, but they could have succumbed to
whether or not they were celebrities or not.
Let me come at this from the social media standpoint. Two arguments. Samia, tell me what you think. Because here's Assad, little baby Assad. He's got by the time he can't even read yet, he can't even really speak yet, and by the time he's able to understand what's being said about him, there's this whole digital long big footprint trail.
It's a case by case with every celebrity.
Absolutely.
And again, I don't know Assad and his fiance personally.
And everybody, a lot of people who know Cons, and how you are with Caden and everything like that, it's really great. And it's an inspiration, and it's a great role model. And I want to say that because we've done so many shows on fatherhood and the importance of fathers. It's a great example, especially, to these young guys having their first kid too, that you can be cool, you can be in the game, you can be doing your thing, and you can still be taking care of your family
and love your kids. And I think
whether you're a bus driver or your consequence.
Right.
Yeah.
So, Mia, do you think it's like a difference between, there's a big difference like when the parents are already famous? That there's not that living through, because the other aspect of this, we've seen like the shows like the Dance Moms, like these beauty contestants, there's this whole thing of where you see the parent, and the parent's kind of like the ugly duckling, not to make an inappropriate comment, but the parent was never a beauty queen, but they want the little girl is out there, and they're kind of living vicariously. Same thing with sports. All these fights you see at these kids' sports games, and
I think it's in every field. I mean, we're talking specifically now about music and the arts, but like you said, you go to any kid's soccer game and you see some parents just screaming at the ref, and it's like, your kid isn't Pele. I don't know what you're doing right now.
Exactly.
Or they really hope that their kid is the next Kobe or the next LeBron, and sometimes the kid can live up to that and everyone is happy, but think about all the times that doesn't happen. And I think the biggest thing as a parent would probably be to have that open conversation, that if your kid says, you know what, mom or dad, I'm not good at this, or I don't like this anymore, I want to go do something totally different. But it's hard, right? Because even as a parent, take the legacy aside, think about all the hours you've invested, the money you've invested in coaches and stylists and trainers, and there's going to be kind of a back and forth conflict. I think what's interesting now is it's social media, so it's in front of everyone. So let's say 16 years from now, baby Assad, who will now be teenage Assad, doesn't want anything to do with the industry
at all.
And the question,
like he wants to be a monk or something somewhere.
He totally wants to be a monk. Can he then go to his dad and say, you know what, remove all of my social media footprint, I don't want anyone to know me? And again, it's fine now because the comments are positive, but sadly some celebrity kids, they're judged like their parents, like, oh, your mom was very attractive, so you need to be attractive, or your father's tall, you need to be very athletic. And what happens to those kids who kind of grow up feeling like they may be, for lack of a better term, the ugly duckling, the black sheep of the family? How do they reconcile with that?
But Cons, do you feel like dads are being kind of under attack a little bit for doing this?
I did more so than even making it about moms or dads. I just think just from listening, it's very rare that anybody's ever been taught how to be an emotional manager.
Right.
There's no guideline or blueprint.
That's the point.
To manage your own emotions. Let alone,
your children.
So the thing is, like, what I see, like once again, to even go back to Khaled, like, at least there is a documented bond.
I want to thank all of you for being with us for this episode of Street Soldiers. Remember, use your mind. It's your best weapon. I hope it's your only weapon. I'm Lisa Evers. Let's push for peace.